So after months and months, we have finally reached the penultimate issue of Doomsday Clock. It's... How do I explain this delicately? It's getting to a point that it's now wondering... Now, Jeff Johns has said that this will affect DC and the DC Rebirth and the New 52 initiative, but now it's more like a, will it even affect anything? Because everything about this story is phenomenal. Jeff Johns was the right guy to write this kind of story, but everything has derailed the DC Rebirth initiative, everything that it was meant to do, and has been completely derailed because Dan DiDio loves to hate. Like, I'm pessimistic. I'll admit it. I am very pessimistic. But Dan just is very nihilistic in my mind. Like, he hates Wally West. He hates the Titans. He hates Nightwing. And I must stress, he hates fictional characters that are just meant to inspire or relate. But Dan just seems like if he, like, I said this to several people who were comic fans, and even they agree Dan DiDio might have a problem here. I asked the question, what would happen if Dan DiDio, if he was able to, meet Robin, meet Nightwing, meet Dick Grayson, meet Wally West? I have the hunch of what could happen. As such, I like to refer to this Alpha Omega Sin clip to describe this.
Like, would you throw a fucking tantrum right there on the fucking floor? Would you piss and shit yourself? Probably, just judging from all this shit.
Okay, let's move on. So, yeah, so remember that Heroes in Crisis, the Heroes in Crisis book? Here's the thing. I have said this repeatedly, that I do think that editorial mandate was a cause of all of this. That Tom King had a different idea, but DC was like, well, we have to fuck over Wally West and fuck over Jeff Johns because we are a fucking nihilistic problem with our boss. And Tom King has publicly come out, and I'm surprised he still got his deal out of this, was that he presented the story, and DC came back to him and said, we need you, here are the characters you get to work with. Wally West is one of them. So really, there's a huge hunch that there was more to it backstage, and that Dan DiDio really did play a role, that he might as well have written the story himself, because he's that pessimistic against Wally West. But then you got all the stuff going on with the events, like Year of the Villain, and all the planned events, like the rumored Crisis event next year, rumored to be either written by Scott Snyder or Tom King. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Tom King, because he's Dan DiDio's forced herald to bring in the nihilistic environment of the New 52 once more. But yeah, let's get right down into Doomsday Clock, issue number 11. And while I'll admit this issue is a good one, that's the case for all of them, but this is also the weakest one, because it's like trying to force in all this stuff that happened, and also trying to force, try to explain everything that went down, and to build up to this big moment at the end. But there is some questions that I have that does relate to the real world political backstory stuff going on within DC Comics and how they're handling this. But yeah, we cut to a station that shows a military guy trying to turn the key, and Batman breaks his arm. Yeah, that seems about right. And then we cut to a news lady talking about how gang war is broken out between the Joker and the two unknown players that has erupted across Gotham. So the Joker, Mind, and Marionette just finally said fuck it and just went to war with each other. Okay, that seems random. And protesters have dispersed as mandatory curfews in effect. But then she just says fuck it, I'm out of here. This is turned to hell. And then Batman breaks another monitor that involves nuclear weaponry. And as Rorschach's old journal starts being brought up, Batman's beating up military officials, because that's going to help with the crisis. And yeah, apparently, I was suspecting Batman was gonna go after Adrian Veidt, because he's the goddamn Batman, and he's gonna probably already know the location where he's at because he's Batman, and this was gonna lead to him confronting him at the end, and whereas we get the other confrontation, which I'll bring up, but I was like, so wait, Batman attacks a nuclear facility, but this leads to another question. As Batman's beating these people up, we get to a not so stiff in the neck Alfred. Yeah, you see the problem here? Alfred in this continuity is alive, but in Batman by Tom King, he is pretty much dead. Okay, I get that that is probably not Alfred, but there's been a rumor going around that plans have changed after the issue came out and realized what they got here, and they decided, okay, let's make this legit. Which will bring in a huge myriad of questions to wondering what the hell is going on. Because now it's is Alfred... Is this Alfred? Is he alive? Is this a fake Alfred? Is this the real Alfred? Or is it Clayface in disguise as Alfred? Is going to be Retcon revealed? Is it... I don't know anymore. This whole delay thing has... I know we could probably attest that Jeff Johns has too many responsibilities to do this story. And you can also attribute that Gary Frank's artwork is the cause of this as well. Because his style... Because to get, this very down, detailed layer in a 9-panel format is pretty difficult, and I also do believe Dan DiDio has intentionally delayed it in order to cut down the momentum Rebirth was going with. But I don't know what's going on anymore. This might as well have been an Elseworld story at this point, because now it leads to a question regarding issue 12, which I'll talk about at the end. So as looters are trying to trash everything, and we hear the audio of the adjournment, Batman is overwhelmed by military officials, because that's possible. Yeah, okay, in a real world, okay, let's believe Batman being beaten up, even for all his training, being taken down by military officials, okay, I can buy that, but in the DC universe, this is the same man that beat the crap out of everybody, the Justice League included, with his contingency plans. And I'm supposed to believe he gets taken down by military officials and overwhelmed? So, here's the thing. So, we get Adrian Veidt, Ozymandias, looking at all these monitors somewhere in some bunker, or probably Arkham Asylum. I don't think so, though. They're talking and listening to all the media in the world, basically trying to recreate his old fortress in Antarctica. The media is talking about how there's no sign of the Justice League since they went to Mars. Oh, they got their asses handed to them within 10 minutes by the hands of a guy with his dongle hanging out and loves to talk about future events that he perceives time with. And Markovia's outsiders have sided with Russia. Okay, considering how Young Justice is currently around, I'm pretty sure that was just put in for effect, for a small little in joke. But this is the part that bugged me a lot. It made me laugh. There's text at the bottom. It says, "The National Guard has arrived in Gotham, not to quell the violence, but to arrest the Batman, charged with treason after leaving dozens of American soldiers wounded, some severely," the White House said. And I was thinking, okay, let's see if I get everything straight about Gotham. Gotham, the worst place on Earth, clearly. You mean to tell me Bane taking over Gotham, that was with a mind-controlled army of villains, no military response. Gotham being Jokerized, no military response. Gotham having devastating earthquakes, the government will shut down the city. Gotham having multiple criminals at such a high repeated rate that the death penalty is no longer an option for some reason. Yes, I know there's the whole mental instability and they plead the insanity thing, but if the person is doing it so many times and is reaching 6-digit range of murder, probably 7, that just leads to a question: why have the government of Gotham or the state not just make a law to say how many times you can keep using that plea of insanity until you can't use it anymore? Like, why can't they? This is like that story I heard where this psychopathic old man kills people, ran over and over and over, and every time he was given second chances. Yes, I know I'm referencing something real life, but come on, this is insane. Even, and I wanted to talk about this story because it was just so insane, and I even said the judges need to be held accountable for this. The court let him go. He was in prison. The court let him go, and they kept letting him go out of prison because he said, "Oh, he's too old to be dangerous." Thank you. So, yeah, yeah, that happened, and like I'm left wondering so why doesn't Gotham just do something like pick a new law that involves the plea of insanity statement and whatnot? But no, Batman attacking some military American soldiers that were going to launch nukes in one station. I'll get to that in a moment. Now we send in the National Guard, damn it. So the president spoke and said, "Thank you to the tremendous Wonder Woman, and who has stood up to Kahndaq's evil leader and his very bad meta-humans." This sounds very familiar. I would suspect this would be in a tweet somewhere. Kahndaq was a real place. Black Adam is a huge terrorist threat to the world, but America will win. The bigger they are, the bigger they'll fall. It's harder, Mr. President. And then Wonder Woman is struck down by Black Adam. By the way, yeah, they never show the president in this series, but it's clearly Donald Trump. It's clearly Donald Trump talking. They have Donald Trump as president in the DC universe. Well, at least he finally got to be president of some fictional media and as well as real life, because he was originally supposed to be the president of the United States during Sharknado 3, and then he decided to really run for president. So anyways, as Wonder Woman is struck down by Black Adam, he yells out basically that you preach a peace as if that's what the leaders of this bloated, selfish, frightened country want. And how they are the descendants of those who enslaved her people and sexually assaulted them and killed them, and that they fight for the privileged, he fights for the oppressed, blah, 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 saying, whose side are you on? And then the military back in the presidential bunker area, or the Department of Defense, they're tracking dozens, if maybe hundreds of metahumans clustering in Kahndaq, Mr. President. Where are they coming from? Where are they all coming from, General Lane? I would try and do a Trump impersonation, but I'm not going to do it. From all over the globe. The Superman theory, the abduction of metahumans by governments and traffickers. These people see Kahndaq as their only option to find safety. Mr. President, you need to reconsider your position on whether we acknowledge Professor Martin Stein's work or not. If we tell the world we are responsible for a percentage of America's superheroes and supervillains, if we restore faith in at least some of them, no. He would later be found dead, mysteriously, under mysterious circumstances. There was a suicide note, and he was hung, apparently. However, conspiracy theorists would later deduce that he was secretly murdered by the United States government for daring to speak the truth. Yeah, that's what happens, because if someone wants to dare tell the truth in the government, they're basically dead man walking. That's basically how the system works, I believe. But then General Lane counters saying, but with our nuclear systems down, we have no defenses in place. Okay. You mean to tell me Batman attacks one small little station, it seems, of a nuclear facility, and then all the systems are down? And I know they mentioned that this takes place a few days after issue 10 in Comic Time, though even then Comic Time is completely wrecked. But here's the thing that bugs me. It took Batman a few days to somehow go all over across the country of the United States, beat the ever-loving shit out of all the American soldiers who are just following orders of the president because the president's a lunatic in the DC universe more so. And how it's supposed to. But and then now they say we need to send the National Guard into the Gotham to arrest him. But he's been doing. But let's see, if the defense systems are down, that means he went to multiple places because even Apocalypse from X-Men Apocalypse got this right. He's launched all the nukes, and if I recall, one of the Department of Defense leaders said, and I quote, who's turning the keys? There were keys. Plural. Multiple keys. That means there were multiple locations containing these keys that would launch the nukes across the country. They also launched them around the world, but still into space, but still. So, because the president is unwilling to listen to any rational reason that involves telling the truth, because God knows a politician can't do that, or else, that would be a death sentence waiting to happen. Or, like when they said in fact, even the president said in the DC universe an issue or so ago, where he said, and I believe that I might as well just throw this whole project out and just tell them the truth. And then some secretary lady decided to be a bullshitter and say, no one wants to go to prison, but we do want to be horribly irradiated in chaos and death. So long as we're not in jail. Wait. So anyways, as I'm continuing ranting about our current state and the DC Universe's current state, Wonder Woman's getting her ass kicked, and then they mention the Amazons, saying, won't the Amazons come to Wonder Woman's aid? And General Lane mentions that we have warships watching the Mediterranean for any signs, but we don't know the precise location of their island, or what their true intentions are. I have a question. I thought they did know where the island is. Unless they moved it, I'm like, I would believe that because it's magic. But I thought the world knew where the Themyscira was. Damn. Okay, I'm trying. I do remember in the old continuity before New 52 happened, aka Dan DiDio, Wonder Woman did bring people from man's world to Themyscira and had this communication start until they ultimately fucked it all up and leading to Amazon's attack, and we all know how that was. How did... I could have sworn that they do know the location of, unless they moved it, which I would find believable, or they once again shield themselves up, but they moved it somewhere. But even when you shield it up with invisibility, clearly as the Wonder Woman movie shows, a ship can just pass through, can just get into it, and no repercussions could be made. Which, again, led to questions I had to wonder, but I won't get into them. You could just see my old review of that. So, apparently the Oracle predicted this, and Diana will be severely injured in the battle if it continues. We must bring her back to the island, to the purple light. She will fight to stay, but this is for her own protection. What of the impending war on man's world? Retribution against Black Adam is not our way.
In fact, it's the fate of her daughter that's led Hippolyta to declare war on America.
Yeah, that line was stupid. So they're saying that the saving the rest of the world from itself is not our mission. I still call bullshit. Anyways, Vladimir Putin is pissed, and he has given the deadline midnight tonight to hand over Superman, with support for Superman at an all-time low following what happened in Moscow. And saying that America is better off without the Superman. Yeah, that's... Yeah, you'd be enslaved by Darkseid if you dare tell him to leave. And then we cut to Lex Luthor being all happy and sunshine and rainbows over Superman being knocked down a peg or two. Where he then apologizes to Lois Lane after she tells him, "Wipe that grin off your face, Lex." So, Lex Luthor, because it's been so long and they need to recap everything, had to explain what happened in the last several issues. And he boasted that he created an alien invasion and whatnot, and then Lois Lane agrees that he's more of a madman than you. Okay, but he at least succeeded in something, whereas Lex Luthor has failed every single time. So he came searching, blah, 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 blah. We get to that. Then they move the 1 minute to midnight thing. And then Superman wakes up trying to talk, as Lex Luthor talks about Dr. Manhattan. And then Superman wakes up, calls Lois' name. And we get to the Daily Planet and how Metropolis is basically on the verge of a Gotham transformation. So then the news media starts cutting to more and more stuff going on as chaos starts reigning. How a metahuman military exercise inside Kahndaq that triggered the destruction of the Giza pyramids outside Cairo. Well, there goes more 7 of the 7 wonders. And then we get to a news weather anchor talking about looking for lightning. If you're in the eastern half of the United States, you'll find it, as a bizarre squall line is moving across the entire country from north to south. Expect severe interferences tonight and into the early morning with a chances of statewide blackouts. Also probable chaos, but still. Japan's meteorologist agency has suggested fire tornado's destination in Moscow is behind these worldwide weather anomalies, though where the explosion originated has been a hotly debated topic. And then we see Ozymandias stroking Barbastus. I'm pretty sure I butchered that name. Which leads me to believe he had something to do with this, because of course they did. And then they bring up how the Justice League disappeared and how they're trying to absolve Superman or something. Oh, here's another thing. They bring up how the Flash Museum and the metahuman themed restaurant's been destroyed in an arson attack. Yeah, definitely not a reference to something that happened in Japan or anything. Yeah, then we cut to more of the adjournment, and then we see a world to remember, as Ozymandias quotes it saying this: "A world to remember." Yes, let's hope so. Sorry, something got stuck in my eye. So, the media is talking again about Superman saying that they need a hero, and then chaos starts continuing breaking out. And then it's like, then Ozymandias suddenly hears crying and whatnot and say, "Yes, yes, I hear you. All these screens, I thought you were one of them." And yeah, what happened was, Ozymandias was hearing stuff. Turns out to be Sound Girl talking, and he assumed that all these screens, he thought it was one of the screens, because he's too much addicted to television. And they move past Johnny Thunder, who's moping, but instead decides to talk to Sound Girl, and she asks why she can't read his mind. Yeah, I would like to know that too. Ozymandias doesn't have superpowers. Unless the cancer, if he really had one, somehow is interfering, giving him powers, which I don't believe for a second. I'm just suspecting it has to do with what's going to be revealed later. So we come back to Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. How Lois says that how she's threatening to turn around and walk right out here, but Lex Luthor says, "No, your curiosity won't let you, Miss Lane. I know you." Yeah, I can believe it. And then Lex Luthor just smugly says, "You should feel special, Miss Lane. No other human being on the planet has been inside this vault save for me. I'll send you a thank you card. What is this place?" It is the most secure facility I possess, housing the secrets of the very nature of our universe, which I will prove to you revolves around me. I mean, like, I could bring up Superman, but he's a doo-doo head. Have you ever heard of Carver Coleman? The actor? Yes. He was murdered in 1954. The case was never officially solved. Carver Coleman's estate went up for sale. His personal belongings identified and sold to collectors, trading hands throughout the years. This one of these items belongs to me. This. And in his hand is an image of John and his former girlfriend. And I'm trying to remember her name. It's been so long, but I don't remember. And apparently Lex Luthor... Okay, this is where I'm going to be kind of pissed off at this. Because Lex Luthor explains that since he was a child, he has been tracking these strange anomalies. And then 2 years ago, which I'll get into in a sec, he had been tracking abnormal chronal energy spikes, which had been increasing in both power and frequency, leading to something that he believes was trying to come into our universe from beyond. And then we hear Wally West and Barry Allen reunite. And then Lex Luthor continues to speak, saying, lying there in the grass was a photograph. So Barry Allen, the forensic expert, didn't notice this. Like, I get this whole thing. He was emotional, so that made sense. But allow me to get to the Lex Luthor part in a sec. So Luthor found the chronal debris, including the film that he sent, along with other personal items connected to Wally West. The evidence that the reality had been altered, but it was the photograph that was the true anomaly. And thus showing him hundreds and hundreds of the same photograph all throughout the world. I found them all over America mostly, although one was recovered by my team in the Congo only days ago. Each one is absolutely identical in every way. From what I've been able to piece together, the one in your hand was the first, back in 1938. But if you look at John's suit, it comes from a later era, the 50s, it appears. Yes, Lex Luthor, deduced all of this in the middle of my time being Superman, a Justice Leaguer, an evil apex predator, a villain, the totality, the no justice event, and I somehow concluded everything about the plot of Doomsday Clock before Doomsday Clock was conceived. I have pieced it together because I am Lex Luthor, damn it. So, yeah, this is the part where the plot holes start to come in. Not the Doomsday Clock one, the rest of the DC universe, because once again I'm asking, where the hell does this take place in? Okay, so they mentioned how DC Rebirth takes place a year after all the current storylines going on. Luthor mentions that it's been 2 years since the initial DC Rebirth one-shot. So, here's the thing. Heroes in Crisis, at the end of its story, takes place in the same year Doomsday Clock takes place in, which could tie into things about the current status of the DC Universe. But this leads to a question I've been wondering since Year of the Villain. Where the hell does any of this take place in? Like, is Year of the Villain... Because there are too many contradictions going on with the Year of the Villain and the Doomsday Clock story. Because a few months after Doomsday Clock issue 10 happened, it was announced that they would be bringing back the Justice Society in a story, in the Justice League story, for the Doom Justice War, and for the Year of the Villain storyline. And then it came out in a new issue recently, the same week this issue came out, that apparently Barry Allen doesn't know who the hell the Justice Society is, which leads to a myriad of questions, because nothing in this comic ever references Apex Luthor. They never mention the Year of the Villain. They did mention Sanctuary, because clearly that was in the plans, but they never mentioned the Year of the Villain stuff. I get they're not trying to spoil anything, but they could have, like, this is where it doesn't make sense anymore, because, and here's the thing, Dan DiDio admitted at, I believe, Comic-Con, that, yeah, even he admitted he fucked all the timeline up. He even admitted that there's gonna be, that we want to do this big special issue chronicling the DC Universe history, but we fucked up the timeline until everything we get sorted out. We can't release this comic. So he admits he fucked everything up. You failed! Like, he's admitting to have fucked up the entire plan. He fucked up the timeline because now we don't know what's going on anymore, and we need to piece together certain stuff. Like, is that really Alfred now? His neck was snapped. DC was gonna go with a fake out, but then they're now thinking, hey, let's actually make Alfred dead because that's not gonna piss everyone off. Like, but that contradicts. Like, you're the villain mentions how Barry Allen doesn't know who the Justice Society is, even though there's evidence that says this takes place after Doomsday Clock, but now they're saying it doesn't take place after Doomsday Clock. So what's going on now? Like, by this logic, Nightwing should be starting to remember crap, but we're not getting that, because Nightwing was in Doomsday Clock. Dick Grayson, not the person dressing up as Nightwing, but Dick Grayson doesn't recall his past and is rejecting it, so I am completely lost here. I don't know what Jeff Johns is thinking now behind the scenes, wondering what the hell did DiDio do. In fact, at this point, the whole "damn it, Barry" meme should go to "damn it, DiDio," because everything's all fucked up now. Like, this is possibly the biggest Flashpoint event since the Flash fucked it all up. And this wasn't even by a Flash, it was by a businessman who hates the Flashes. Mostly Wally West, and try to have a black kid be him, and then say if anyone disagrees with me, you're a racist. And I'm black. And I hated that idea. And I hated that he used the racist card. Like, I don't know where anything is anymore. And I don't think anyone else does. Like, back then, you at least had a firm grasp up until, like, at the very least, Heroes in Crisis, you had a firm grasp where everything was at. But when Year of the Villain started, it was like, we give up. So, yeah, Lois Lane then asks, are these pictures traveling through time? Not these photos, Miss Lane. These photos appear to be left behind, like breadcrumbs, dropped across most of the last century and into this one. And Luthor deduces that they're probably not even aware of it, which of course is brought up because Dr. Manhattan literally poops one out of his butt. Okay, I had to say that. Because, let's be real. There's a photo flying, looking like it just came out of Manhattan, and he's naked. Come on, let's be real. So, yeah, he mentions how they're more powerful than any other being he's ever encountered. Yes, even more being powerful than that lady I was helping in Year of the Villain, but we don't know where the timeline is anymore, so we can't use that logic yet. And Dr. Manhattan mentions that soon he will speak to Superman for the first time. Huh. So Superman's putting on his costume again, and then the military busts in because, of course, they broke into the Justice League building. They say, by orders of the President of the United States, I'm asking you to come quietly. Yes, we, people armed with guns, can clearly take on a Kryptonian who has superpowers of a god. Why did we sign up for this? Superman just says, look, lower your weapons, please, I don't want any trouble. But then we cut back to Sandgirl going ahead and saying Superman will stop him. And Ozymandias just retorts saying Superman doesn't even know I exist, Irma. How did you know her name? Oh yeah, you brought it up she introduced herself before calling herself Sandgirl, but anyways. Superman then says, if the president has an issue with me, I'll go to him to discuss it. Oh man. Imagine how that conversation would go. Superman being Donald Trump. I honestly would be kind of fascinated with that. You can make an issue of that and I will buy it. And then Sandgirl then says, I can read your mind, but I can't find the truth. That's not what you just said several pages ago.
Great continuity!
And then she just says, your head is full of lies. And then Ozymandias says, you've come here from the future to warn Superman something you don't understand. I will tell you one truth. You're never going to see Superman again. And then Johnny Thunder then screams out, you leave her alone! Don't you touch her! I should know! I will summon Seize You! Wait. And then Superman has been found, and he's been now moving to Washington D.C. And then Santa Girl smirks with a smile and saying, "I'll tell you the truth now, Adrian. You will never destroy Superman if that's what you're planning." Then we get more of the adjournment stuff and more of the Carver Coleman talk. But then Ozymandias, out of character, quite honestly, grins evilly with a sick smile on his face. Like, here's the thing. I get Ozymandias smiles with this dark look, but he's always subtle about it. Instead, he's actually like a full-on villain. Like, not like a villain who had good intentions but really fucked up plan that sadly worked, but anyways. But yeah, but like, Ozymandias never smiled like this. From what I've seen, Ozymandias was cold and calculated when he revealed his true colors, but he never smiled like, let's conspire and ruin life. So yeah, that just seemed out of character for me. But I do believe when he says, "Oh, I'm counting on him to survive wherever comes his way." So then we see everyone's favorite Alfred Pennyworth, who is definitely not having a stiff neck, making pancakes. Cue Jake Dog if you want. Alfred then prepares to leave with the stack of pancakes after wrapping them all up, and then we cut to Reggie Long. And he is having a very dark dream and seeing his dad again, and then he subsequently sees them burn, and then we see Mothman burning alive, saying, "Rorschach? Not Rorschach! Kovacs was a monster!" See what you want to see. I see a world dying. And then Walter Kovacs, or Rorschach, or his persona as Rorschach, starts to choke on Reggie, and then Reggie freaks out. And then Alfred says, "Do you remember me? I'm Alfred Pennyworth. You liked my cooking." "I read the journal. I'm sorry we didn't believe you before, but we do now." I don't know about Batman. I'm pretty sure Alfred's trustworthy, but Batman is pretty much a full-fledged liar at times. "Bruce asked me to find you, to help us locate Ozymandias so we can prove Superman's innocence, so we can stop from doing to our world what he did to yours. I thought you might be hungry." But why did Batman do this? And if I'm asking, why did you take so long to read his book? Like, Batman clearly read it. Why didn't he just tell Alfred? So, Reggie Long, understandably, is not trusting Alfred at all by saying, "Put me in prison, left me to rot. Maggots twisting in food." And then Alfred presents the pancake saying, "Please, come with me. We need Rorschach." And Reggie snaps at that, screaming, "Not Rorschach! Wait, please, we want to help you. I must know. Help me how to fix my neck." And yeah, this is the one thing I like, because Reggie Long has every reason not to trust anyone, because all he has is betrayal in his life since his parents were killed by Ozymandias. Like, he was tricked by Ozymandias, he was fooled by Mothman, he was lied to by Batman. What reason does he have left to trust Alfred? But even though the issue's main synopsis was that the world could be saved by Rorschach. So then we cut back to Mine and Marionette beating the crap out of the Joker's gangsters, I think, and slicing off one mugger's hands. But then Ozymandias then recaps everything that happened in issue 7, saying, "My original plan was to find John and convince him to return to our Earth, so that he might save it from nuclear annihilation. But I knew after our discussion before he disappeared, John would never listen to me. So I set my sights on them. And they're currently killing people left and right, and dropping the comedian onto the floor. About how he pulled the proverbial strings. I required them because of their past experience with Dr. Manhattan." And yeah, then we cut back to the flashback where Dr. Manhattan encountered them. And as we all know, the most classic scene is when the comedian killed the pregnant woman in Vietnam and Dr. Manhattan did nothing. But John never really explained why he never saved them. But then we get what happened to the child. And this is the part where I think Gary Frank was rushing things a little bit here because he, like, okay, he's saying the child was a boy, and they've all said it was a son, but the artwork shows that this looks to be a girl. Was there a rush in the artwork or something? Like, it's still good art, but, like, I was wondering, was there something rushed with it? Like, I'm not saying the blonde hair or anything, but it's just the body structure looks to be more female-like. So, anyways, the boy would be revealed to have been actually adopted by none other than the Silk Spectre and Night Owl, who are all living it up as the Hollis family, and yeah, and Ozymandias hoped that's why he asked Silk Spectre to come because he did that for her, giving her a real family that he can't give, and she refused, which leads to this theory. So there are one or two ways now that we know what happened to them. They're most likely dead, either when the bombs dropped in the Watchmen universe, or Ozymandias killed them in violent rage when they rejected his offer. Yeah, that's my deductive proposition there. So, Saturn Girl just says, so you broke them out of prison? No, my other puppet. And then he recaps about Reggie Long, about how he tricked them and everything, and how the missiles were falling. And then he just says, poor Reggie. He had no idea he was wearing the mask of the man that destroyed his parents, working for the man who manipulated him as a Byron, and unknowingly they did, coming to the strange, colorful world. It was here that I realized John had journeyed to someplace special and horrifying, a world of extremes impossible to reconcile. Well, and we get this gorgeous artwork that was previewed by Gary Frank about showing the heroes of the DC universe, some off-cut paneled, but it's still pretty beautiful artwork. I would love to see Gary Frank completes the whole set and makes a wallpaper out of it. I would definitely love it. In fact, it does look like he was making a wallpaper out of it, but then when they had to stick to the 9-panel format and they couldn't do a 2-page spread, he had to cut it down. So I really do hope that Gary Frank has a bigger, much more lavish painting of this, because this is pretty awesome. Ozymandias then says, one full of hope, Jeff Johns, and at the same time, Dan DiDio, despair. A schizophrenic society overrun with superpowers and costumes. He refused to help us, obsessed with an impending confrontation with Superman that would lead to his own destruction or this universe. But it was clear why John had ventured here, to be with his own. No. Oh. Anyways, then Ozymandias continues to narrate, saying, he refused to help us, believing that a confrontation with Superman would lead to his or this universe's oblivion. So I came up with a new plan. One to save both worlds. And then he narrates about how he found out about the whole Superman theory and decided to make the situation worse when he found all the documentations. And then it's revealed that the cat somehow, even though it shouldn't be possible, triggered the explosion in Firestorm. And he somehow managed to trick the superheroes to go all the way to Mars, resulting in a battle that removed all the Superman's allies, and now the stage has been set. And now and I love this part, how as the midnight deadline to turn Superman over inches closer, Putin's human forces have gathered in West Square in honor of those fallen. Amazon stormed into the United Nations and abducted Wonder Woman in mid-battle, leaving no one to stop Black Adam. This scene actually is kind of mirroring off of the beginning of Doomsday Clock, because originally the National News Network, most likely lying, said that they had given Russia a deadline when they were, quote, invading the Eastern Europe, and now it's going the other way around. It's being inverted, where it's now Russia giving the deadline against America if they don't turn over Superman. That's clever. I actually thought that was clever. Ozymandias then smiles, saying the stage is set. And then we cut to the president's chopper waiting for him, and then they tell Mr. President, we need to get you someplace safe. Hold on, never mind, it's not going to be safe outside. And sure enough, the copter is immediately destroyed by Black Adam and his army of metahumans. One of them is the Sand Child. Yeah, the child that controls sand. He's among them, so Black Adam's clearly not qualmed of building up an army of children. That's fucked up. On the White House lawn, lightning storms apparently created to cover their arrival. I have a message to all metahumans everywhere. The revolution is now. Come join me. It is time to free the world from enslavement. And then Superman arrives to save the day. I'm still catching up, but I know enough to know this has gone too far. You have one chance to stand aside, Superman. And the media is just going ahead and saying Superman is working with the government, with all the other people and whatnot, and therefore this is going to further intensify the conspiracy. But Sandra reiterates that whatever you're trying to do, Superman will stop it. I've seen the future. It exists because of Superman. Yes, well, if Superman is so important to you, to your existence, let me ask you one thing, Saturn Girl. Does Superman remember you? Saturn Girl then pauses and then says, no. And then she realizes what she just did. She starts to disintegrate, so she's basically not feeling so well. And then Ozymandias somehow says, I would theorize that you're no longer part of this timeline. You just didn't realize it. Long live our worlds. So, yeah, Sand Girl, who they've been building up for 3 years now, is gone. Oh, and it's been confirmed. This isn't New 52, the retcon universe that Dr. Manhattan created Sand Girl. This was the pre-New 52 Sand Girl. Another relic of the old continuity, dead like that. Built up to do nothing. Other than break out Reggie Long Rorschach. So, yeah, that was worth it. But now this leads to a rather interesting question. So, the only way that time could fix everything, as I'm theorizing, is if the person who went back in time realizes that something's wrong. Then why isn't Booster Gold dead? No, seriously. Why is Booster... Like, as far as I know, Booster Gold hasn't disintegrated to dust yet. And there's been no sign of him in Doomsday Clock, so is he already dead by this point? Or whatever? So, yeah, I'm confused now. So, by this logic, Booster Gold is dead. Because once he realizes that history's been heavily altered to the point that the Legion no longer exists, and he's no longer able to do the things he could do, that means he should disintegrate as well, right? So, Ozymandias closes his eyes and says, our worlds. This one will become my tomb, but that tomb will be a monument. Also, the Legion ring still remains. That really questions so the ring is very significant, I think. I'm theorizing the ring is significant because I'm suspecting that the ring has a role in this because the ring was in Dr. Manhattan's hands, and then when he altered history, it disappeared, but now the ring is back there. But now that Ozymandias has pretty much all but killed Saturn Girl, he then just leaves the room saying, oh, quit crying, old man. You're from the past. The past won't be erased. And Johnny Thunder is crying with Alan Scott's Green Lantern battery beside him. So, where the hell did Maya Marionette lose it? How did they lose it? And why did they never bring it up? What the hell happened the last few days? I feel like we're missing something. And then Superman gets knocked all the way to Pennsylvania by Black Adam. And then we get the ultimate narration as certain panels skip over Reggie Long and other people of the DC Universe and Superman. In 6 seconds, Superman will see me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Superman stands up, turns around, and sees the legendary Dr. Manhattan in front of him. It is now. It is Superman. It is me. It is us. It is the world. It is time. It's time. Ozymandias says. And then we end it with another quote. I am not afraid to make a mistake, even a great mistake, a lifelong mistake, perhaps as long as eternity too. James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. And then we close out the issue talking about the photographs and documents of LexCorp. And then we get to a very interesting one. A photograph, not of the couple of John and what's her name again, but of the comic that featured the legendary crossover of Barry Allen Flash and Jay Garrick Flash finally meeting as that steel beam starts falling on this poor worker. And I gotta be honest, they probably should have been at best putting the lightning effects in for the flashes because, okay, this looks. I laughed when I first saw this. I was like, that's what it looked like. It looked like they were just walking, but trying to look like they're running. They really should have put the electricity in for effect. So then Lex Luthor reveals that the whole plan for this event is to find a way to close the loop between him and Superman to end the cycle. So Luthor's in it for his own agenda, not surprising. So this is clearly going somewhere with this. But then we cut to the what was originally thought to be the blood pouring down on the clock turns out to be Superman's cape as evidenced by the Superman logo appearing at the top of the page, pouring over the clock of Doomsday, thus ending issue 11. Now we're getting to the end game. We're in the end. So I like to quote Doctor Strange on this. So take it away, Doctor Strange.
We're in the end game now.
I love that line. So, yeah, we're actually in the end game now. And here's the thing, I feel like this is going to be the longest amount of delayed issue because there's so much stuff they have to fix. They have to resolve. One, they have, here's the thing. Watchmen at least got away with the fact that he was in his own established universe and they could do whatever they want with it. That made sense. But with the DC universe, and they had so much story going on, you have the Superman theory, Firestorm, the Flashes, the Legion of Superheroes, the Justice Society, the Superman theory, Superman and Dr. Manhattan's connection, Ozymandias' ultimate plan, let's see, how the world's going to stop destroying itself, how the Watchmen universe will be affected, how all this takes place in, and how to resolve how it's just going to affect all the future DC stories, if at all. That's over 13 plot lines they need to fix, probably more. Not adding all the added events and crossovers they've done that contradict where this takes place in. So the only way to fix this, and I'm not kidding, would have to be tripling the amount of pages in the 12th issue. Which means this is going to be more delayed more than ever. Because, really think about it. They have to resolve all these plot lines they've built up, and they have to do it within one final issue. They would have to triple up this page to 90, maybe even 100 pages, just to get everything right. Because let's be honest, everyone said this. It's crazy that they're making a sequel to Watchmen because, some person I talked to who's writing a fan fiction regarding Dr. Manhattan, I believe, said this. He feels like he's basically being told to write the Bible, a sequel to the Bible. Which is impossible, but still, that's a good analogy in my opinion, because Watchmen was always deemed unsequelable. You can't make a sequel to it. Jeff Johns is doing it, but since he's trying to keep the tradition of it, he has to build up all the pages again. He would have to triple the pages, with Gary Frank doing more artwork than ever, just to get all the plot lines resolved. At least Watchmen had the gall to end it in an interpretation, which is now confirmed in Doomsday Clock. But, yeah, you have to fix everything Dan DiDio fucked up. You have to resolve all the plot lines that happened, resolve the timeline, try to fix everything, put everything in concise order, And then you have to somehow justify, wait, why is the Legion of Superheroes back in the 31st century if Sandgirl says she's from the 30th century? How are we bringing back the Justice Society? How is the Year of the Villain tied into all this? How is Heroes in Crisis tied into the state of the DC Universe? How is this tied into this? How is that tied into this? How is anything all connected? We don't know anymore. We like, this is probably going to be delayed until 2020 at best. At worst, it could be like near the end of 2020. Because they would have, like I said, they have to triple the pages just to resolve every single goddamn plot going on. Oh, and they also have to resolve the Justice League are all trapped on Mars and probably dead by now because Mars' breathable atmosphere probably, and Dr. Manhattan doesn't give a damn, so really they're screwed out of the way if certain people are unconscious still. So they have to resolve all these plot lines and convincingly fix all this loop, or I don't know where they're gonna go. I don't have an or really. So Doomsday Clock issue 11. While this was an explosive issue, it's also the weakest because they need to recap everything that's happened because this is gonna be a jumping on point. But they need to explain how certain things have happened, but now they can't do this for issue 12. They have to make this work because this is the one last issue, the final issue of this series. They can't make another issue after this. They have to resolve this, and they probably should triple the pages just to fix everything. Maybe up to over 100. And that's going to probably take a while. So we're probably going to have a 3-year-long event comic that lasted 12 issues for various factors like Jeff Johns' schedule, Gary Frank's artwork, Dan DiDio screwing everything up, Jeff Johns having to try and correct everything that Dan DiDio caused. Oh man, this is going to be a hell of a ride probably near the end. I hope it's worth it. I really hope this whole story was worth it. Like, the issues are so good to me, but it's issue 12, the explosive finale, that needs to have a really good resolve here. So, Doomsday Clock issue 11, it's out in stores now. It was fun, it was entertaining, even with all the issues it had. Like, a lot of people agree this was the weakest of the 11 series so far. And, like I said, Jeff Johns, if you're listening to this, by some miracle, I'm a huge fan of yours. But, Gary Frank, I'm also a huge fan of yours. I would seriously recommend tripling or even quadrupling the pages in order to get everything sorted out. So those were my thoughts on DC Comics Doomsday Clock issue 11. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more. And what am I thinking?
Oh, nothing. Just the end of the world. Tick tock, tick tock, tick